Alright, well, first of all, hello. This isn't something that I usually do. In fact, it's probably my first time recording commentary of any kind on Arcanists, but a lot of people have asked me to do commentary on good quality games or games that I've played so that I can explain my perspective or thought process on certain things. And quite recently, I had a pretty good game between myself and Siggy, which was quite exciting that I can share with you all and commentate on as well. But I don't do this very often, so I'd love to get feedback on what everyone thinks. If it's stuff that you enjoy or any suggestions that you've got, then yeah, that'll be awesome. But look, let's get started. So first of all, let's just turn off this chat. And I'll talk through, I guess, I'll try to give as much commentary as I can around what I was thinking during the game or at particular points in time. It's a shame that you can't pause the replay, but anyway. So to start off, Siggy fails his flash, he teleports down, and Siggy knows I don't run flight in my book because we play together quite a fair bit. So him teleporting over there was actually a pretty safe play on his part. And what he does here is that he actually blasts from the past the little tree. So him doing that means that he plans to do that a second time to free himself. So his next turn will basically be FTP here and get out. Personally, I don't actually recommend doing this because you're burning 2 BFTPs to escape 1 trap. And they're pretty valuable in 60G. Burning 2 to get out of 1 trap it's not always worth it. And you'll see why in a second as this game sort of progresses. You'll start to notice how important having BFTP is. Anyway, my plan here for summoning both the Swarm and the Dragon Egg was to actually bait him to come and kill either one of them. And my plan was to entangle him because he's got a protection shield on, so I can just maintain control over the game. He does a very smart play. He traps me. He doesn't let me do that. I summon this man trap to try and tangle him again, but he actually blocks that as well. So good on him for doing all that. I know he's going to summon his Dark Knight very, very soon. So I try to bring out the Snowman to cover as much ground as possible, so that when he does eventually summon his Dark Knight, I've got a bit of wriggle room to move around. I'll sanct out of here. Yeah, there's the Dark Knight. So I actually get kind of lucky here. He actually messes up this trap here, meaning I get to bring my Snowman out and keep it alive. This is a pretty big deal, as you'll later see, because if it wasn't for this, I have the Sanctuary here no matter what. His Dark Knight would have been able to charge, kill the man trap, kill the Snowman, and the Swarm. Whereas now, I basically get a free Snowman. He tries to trap here. I purposely put the Snowman at this location so he can't actually make that trap. And he eventually gives up on trying to do this. But if he didn't, and he stayed here, I could have moved the Snowman, jumped over here, and actually flashed him off the map. But anyway. Alright, so he does his charge. I actually make a bit of a mistake here, which we'll see in a second. I mess up my trap on his Dark Knight, and that actually costs me quite severely. So I forgot that the Dark Knight can actually jump through Vine Bridge. I thought Vine Bridge was a little bit different from Ice Shield, but it turns out that he can actually get out. So here's a pretty significant blunder. And yeah, so for that I lose my Dark Knight and about 100 or so of my health, which is pretty big. I'm pretty much on the back foot here now, so I need to play defensive. One thing to note is also that Siggy has just used his fourth blast from the past. So he used 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I know he's got nothing else. This is a huge deal because basically any minion, any sort of trap that I put on him, that's going to stick. He has no way of getting out of that. Now for me, 2 lines of play, I could have came here and just drained it, but I wanted to make the more tempo heavy play. So I turn this into a Dark Knight, and what this actually does is that I get to keep the Swarm alive. It costs a lot of my health, clearly, but personally I think it's worth it because I get to keep an extra Swarm. Now, I'm on 53 health, meaning I'm basically about to die. So I try to get out of here, put him under a trap, really. Yeah, there we go. And here's what I mean. See, if he had another BFTP or something like that, there's a chance of him escaping, but I knew because he doesn't have that, I can just trap him quite easily. And I actually he makes a really good play. He tries to put the Pegasus at a location where my Swarm will hit me and kill myself. But he actually kind of messes it up, so I'm on 6 health. Now, obviously this is not a good position to be in. I'm actually not too worried at this point. Yes, from this point onwards, he's on 235, I'm on 6 HP, and there's a few things going through my mind right now. First thing is, I need to heal up above 30, because as soon as I'm above 30 health, I can drain Siggy and a minion, and that will be plus 60. Now, instantly heal up and basically be out of his kill range, because his kill range comes from Shock Bomb, which is 80 damage. I also need to be aware of his Sky Ray damage, because his Sky Ray has been about 2 turns, and I just need to make sure that I'm counting the Sky Ray turns so I don't randomly die to something like that. And being on 6 health, I can't let Siggy ever get a direct hit on me, because Sanctuary is 75 health. If he Pebble shots, there's going to be 2 Pebbles left, and that will always kill me. So from now until the end of the game, basically, I can't let Siggy get a direct shot on me, unless I heal up or whatever else. So I need to keep him either trapped or under control somehow. Once again, you see how important knowing your opponent's spells are. If I didn't know he had, or if he had BFTP, he could BFTP out of here and I would die. I actually make a bit of a blunder here. See, my plan was to fly the baby dragon out, but there's this little pixel here which actually blocks me, which is really annoying. And I was originally going to fly up here, put the man trap here to secure the trap, and I myself would be on the baby dragon. So it doesn't matter what he did, I would have lived either way. If he Sky Rayed or if he tried to hit me, I would have lived. He flies over here. It's a little bit scary. I thought he might throw a Shock Bomb, which could potentially kill. He actually decides to Sky Ray the Swarm, which is an interesting play. Anyway, now I know his Sky Ray's on cooldown, so I can safely get out myself. Idea is to keep him trapped. I make sure I don't want to risk it. I've done very risky plays before. I'm worried about how the Shock Shield Man Trap interaction will go, so I just make sure to put an extra layer of Vine Bridge. So he flashes off my Man Trap, also summoning the Swarm. There's a specific reason for that. One is to deflight him, and 2, the reason why I summoned the Swarm over something like a Snowman or whatever else is because I need this Swarm to later bring me down to the edge of the map so I can side hide. My book doesn't have flight, so I need Swarm to usually help me travel around. And you'll see that right about now. One other thing to be quite conscious of is that I'm well aware that Siggy flew from this tree over here probably about 3 or 4 turns ago. And I have a rough track of that in my mind as well. Because if he had flight right now and I did this play, he just flight over, purple shot me, and I would die. But I know he doesn't have flight, so I can make a play like this. Okay, good. So Siggy comes here. He makes an interesting play. I thought he was going to pebble shot down, but he actually decides to kill the dragon egg first, which I think is a good play as well, because he would have had a lot. He would have had a lot of issues dealing with that later if it grew any healthier. Because I could have used it for traps, I could have used it for damage. So he just decides to get rid of it first. Now this tree here looks really simple. I actually did it for two reasons. One, to trap the Pegasus basically forever. And two, the reason why I summoned this tree here is if I didn't, he would have a direct pebble shot down. But he does a smart thing, he flashes and goes for that direct pebble shot once again. And this is important because if you see, he actually shot 9 pebbles down, right? Because it dealt 45 damage to the man trap. That means those 9 pebbles would have hit my sanctuary, it would have detowered me and actually dealt 5 damage to me, putting me on 1 HP, which is basically impossible to come back from. So anyway, my plan here is basically I can't let him get a pebble shot on me. I can't let him detower me, so I just stuff this area with minions as best as I can. And yes, he's got shock bomb, and I know that, but shock bomb's 4 use, so that's my plan. And we're on turn 23 out of 60, so we've got a long way to go if we want to store out this game. My man trap's on cooldown, my snowman's on cooldown, so my 2 minions left are Swarm and Dragon Egg. So I summoned the other Swarm here because I figure it will probably be necessary for me to block up the entrance or something like that. So that's exactly what I do with this Swarm. I once again can't let him have a direct shot. He can obviously shoot through here, so that's why I summoned the Dragon Egg here to stop him directly hitting me. And that's what he goes for as well. And you'll see that in a second. See, if it wasn't for that Dragon Egg, I would have once again been detowered, left on 1 health. This is all quite self-explanatory. I summoned the man trap here to block his direct shot from this location because he could stand there and pebble shot me. If he had to come further down, I figured something like this would happen where he would actually hit himself, so I wouldn't get detowered at all. Now, what happens here is I don't want him to jump back up and get a direct shot, so I decide to block him with my Swarm here. I would usually never do this, but desperate times call for desperate measures, so there's that. Anyway, he detowers me here. We've gained 6 health during the last 10, 15 turns, something like that. So once again, we want to keep him trapped, keep him blocked up here. He breaks my tower, so I retower here, which is good. And he burns it with Shock Shield. He hits himself slightly here, it doesn't really matter. The health deficit is still too big, and my book doesn't actually have any sort of direct damage spells apart from Dark Knight and Vine Bloom. And I've got like Pebble Shot and other things like that, but it's not really a big deal. Now this turn here is a little bit scary for us. Siggy fights here, and I actually realize he could probably Pebble Shot through this gap, and he tries to, but he actually messes it up. So that's pretty good for us. Move the man trap over, drain down, gain a little bit more health. Once again, remember our plan is to get above 30 HP. As soon as we're above 30 HP, we win the game. That's not to say that Siggy's book is bad or anything. It just so happens that the main threat in Siggy's book is Dark Knight. The Dark Knight's dead. The second threat that he's got is damage, which is Shock Bomb, Shock Shield, Skyray. And Shock Bomb, I'm not worried about at all, because I can always heal that off. I can trap him. Shock Shield I've got Sanctuary for, so as long as we stabilize our health total, this wouldn't be an issue. So anyway, we get out of that location, we come here, and Siggy flights over and he Pebble Shots us again. Now at this point we're already in a much better position, being on much more health, but what you'll quickly notice is that he detowers me. I'm on 14 health. I don't have a tower, So even if I like block this area, he can just flash me and I'll simply die because I'm on 14 health. So I go for the one play I basically can do. I teleport onto my dragon. The dragon's actually really healthy, so it gives me a good health buffer against a lot of Siggy spells. If he Pebble Shots here, if he Sky Rays here, I survive all of them. He actually goes for a Swarm, just to get as much damage on the baby dragon as possible before deciding to Shock Bomb or something similar. So, yeah, he gets 20 damage off effectively because the dragon heals a little bit. This Shock Bomb here doesn't actually deal the full damage, which is really, really good for us. I make sure to bring the dragon down, and I make sure to demount the dragon, because if I stayed on it and we got Sky Raid, we probably would have died. Anyway, I throw up the draw here for the fun of it. I don't expect Siggy to say yes. If he drew at this point, I guess I'd be happy. If he decides not to, it's not really a big deal. It's a game that I can definitely win. So Siggy actually flights in. He does something which I really don't agree with. I think this is potentially the game-losing move. He comes here and he protection shields. From my perspective, there's two reasons why this is bad. One, he gave me breathing room. And as you can see, I got to drain and go back up to 56 health. We're basically halfway there to stabilizing. The second thing you'll notice about his protection shield, which you'll see in a second, is that he actually gets entangled, and that basically loses him the game. The reason why is if you get entangled and you don't really have a way to get out of it effectively, then you lose so much control over the game. There's limited areas that you can go to, and you'll also see later why entangle comes in to be quite a big deal. If I was Siggy here, I would consider potentially shock bombing myself, but this is a good play on his end too. I don't want him to keep a swarm, because if he continues to have this swarm, one, he can de-entangle himself, and two, he can always damage me with it. So I drain it, we come back up to 85 health, and Siggy whips me off here. I once again don't think this is the best play, because him doing that doesn't actually really achieve anything. Like, yes, I got whipped off, but I'm above, I'm above 80 health now, or I'm above 30 health now, so I can very quickly stabilize the game. I make an interesting play here. It might look like a really bad play, but I tried to tree Siggy, and I actually, when I was thinking about this, I noticed that if I tree him, he can probably actually fit through this gap. And I wanted him to do that, because if he walks through this gap and falls down here, he ends up in this location, which is the bottom of a pit while he's entangled, meaning there's literally no way he can get out of this location. And you'll see why this is such a big problem very, very soon. So he stays trapped here. I can just dump minions on his head for days. And there's nothing that he can really do. Siggy actually tries to do a good play. I think he tries to swarm himself. He actually misses, which ends up being quite a big deal. I think this really costed him the game. Well, amongst other things, I think this was a big deal. Anyway, what I do here is I try to claw with my baby dragon the swarm, and I try to break this piece of land so it frees up the man trap. I made sure to jump the snowman on myself, because sometimes when you use the rake ability on the baby dragon, there's actually a slight recoil which bumps you off, which is really odd. I just want to make sure I didn't fall off the baby dragon, because if I did, I would have died. I make sure just to stabilize the game a bit more here. Siggy obviously gets a really, really lucky shock bomb, which actually almost ends up losing us the game, because I follow up with this little jump, and this jump actually traps me, which is really, really scary. So, I mean, it's not too bad, Because if anything, we could have always just teleported away whilst he was still entangled. So it's not like we would have lost, but you know, definitely throws a spanner in the works if that makes sense. Anyway, we summon the second man trap to prevent him from doing any shock bombs, and here's actually where the game ends. So Siggy's still entangled. We're above 50 health, so we're not vulnerable to things like Skyray. And Mantrap is above 80 health, meaning that it can't die to Shock Bomb. So I can actually use Vine Bloom here. Siggy tries to Skyray me into my own bombs, it doesn't work. And by some miracle we've managed to turn this game around. We end the game with the Drain Ball. So yeah, this was quite the game. It really was something, and hopefully the commentary was helpful, hopefully it was interesting, and yeah, if this is something you enjoyed, then let me know. Alright.